What is going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Podium Pushers podcast with Justin and Brandon. Sadly, there was no racing last week. I don't know how we survived, but it is once again race week. Race week in America. We are racing in the great state of Florida, my home state, my birth state, for the Miami Grand Prix. We are here to predict it as we always are. Brandon, how you feeling?
Feeling great. Really excited to watch Formula One at a normal time. So that's really exciting. And we have a sprint race, which is also really exciting. And, the vibes are always immaculate in Miami, or so I've been told. Never been there, actually, ever. So it looks really awesome.
All right, you are currently winning 14-12, which is unfortunate that I'm losing, but I had a great week last time out, so I'm looking to keep the ball rolling here. Maybe close up that gap, take my first lead of the year. Who knows? Starting it off with our podium pusher of the weekend, who have you gone with?
My podium push for the weekend, I'm going with Ollie Behrman. Um, I don't know exactly why, but I think, this is his first race with Haas on American soil. It's just kind of a home race for Haas. It's the closest race to their headquarters. So I think Ollie's gonna do well. And he seems to have a lot of confidence going in out of last weekend into this week. So we'll see what happens.
I've gone with Pierre Gasly, and similar to you, this is for sure a bit of a vibes pick, but he's had good races at Miami before, has run well in the points, so I'm feeling like Pierre Gasly's finally getting on top of that Alpine. Alpine looks like they're getting some more consistent pace or moving in the right direction. He's miles ahead of his teammate, that's for sure. So I've got good vibes about Pierre Gasly this weekend.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. And Jack unfortunately hasn't been doing very well, so we can definitely count on Pierre to beat his teammate this weekend, I think.
Well, that's pretty much guarantee in the year of our Lord 2025. Who have you predicted to be the back marker of the Miami Grand Prix?
My back marker of the weekend, it's gonna be Jack Doohan. Surprise, surprise there. I think
What a
that,
transition. Flawless.
beautiful transition. Yeah. Jack, like I just said, Jack hasn't been doing very well, and I don't expect that to continue in Miami. It's a new track for him, and one that is difficult to overtake on. Jack struggles. It seems to struggle with overtaking in general. I don't know if that's his racing or the pace of the car. But I don't think Miami will make that any easier for him. So I'm expecting him to have a pretty horrible weekend.
My back marker of the weekend, I have gone with Yuki Tsunoda. It's looked like he has been moving in the right direction in that Red Bull, but in the past in his career, we've seen him kind of struggle on sprint weekends, whether it's just the not having a lot of practice and having to jump right into the weekend. We've seen him struggle a little bit in those before. I think that could just be even more so exaggerated in that Red Bull. Still hasn't had a lot of time in that car, so not having all that practice to get adjusted to it, having that sprint weekend, a track he's never raced at in this car. So put those factors together. I'm not feeling great about Yuki Tsunoda's chances here in Miami.
Yeah, and Miami is a difficult track to overtake on, like I just said, and I think it's a pretty technical track, um, especially towards the end of the lap. So I think might see Yuki make some mistakes there. He has been prone to mistakes from time to time in his career, so we'll see.
Yeah, but scored double points here last year, so we will have to see if you're a little bold with that prediction. Who have you predicted for sprint pole this weekend?
For sprint pole, I have gone with Lando Norris. I expect Lando to have a pretty decent weekend here in Miami. He did win here last year, so I think a win is definitely on the table if he can get a handle on the car, get a handle on his own confidence, going into the weekend. So I think Lando is a good pick for pole, honestly.
I think it's a great sprint pole prediction because that is what I have predicted as well. I've also gone with Lando Norris on sprint pole. I'm just so confused and conflicted when it comes to predictions right now because one weekend I think Red Bull are truly in tractor form and then they're back at the front. And theoretically, if everything goes right, Lando Norris should be competing for pole every single time we go out to qualify. But every single weekend, he's done something where he's limiting himself to one lap or he's crashing out, making mistakes on his first lap. So it's hard for me to back Lando Norris, but because he won here last year, I think having this week off was a good mental reset for him. I'm feeling fairly good about putting him as my sprint pole prediction this weekend. Who have you predicted to win the sprint this weekend in Miami?
I'm going with Lando. I think if Lando can get pole and have a clean start, then that McLaren is fast enough to run away, and the only person that would really be a threat to him probably is Oscar. With Miami being a little bit more difficult to overtake on at places, I think that Lando can definitely win that race or the sprint race.
Yeah. Speaking of Oscar Piastri being a threat to him, I think Oscar Piastri is quite the threat to Lando Norris in the sprint race because that is who I think is going to win the sprint this weekend. I feel like it's the classic trope these days of Lando Norris taking a pole and bottling it off the line. Who knows if that is true or not? Really, I'm just going off of past history of Lando Norris not having great sprint races. Even here at Miami last year, he did not finish the sprint race because he had made a mistake in qualifying and then was taken out on lap one by Lance Stroll. So, feeling the vibes, feeling what Lando has done in the past in sprint races, I'm going to go with Oscar Piastri as my sprint winner this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's right now it's just really tough to pick between the two of them because each on their day they're both very fast drivers, so it's kind of a toss up at this point.
Yeah, McLaren, they've got two number one drivers. That's what they keep saying. Who have you predicted to take Grand Prix pole this weekend?
A Grand Prix pole, I have Oscar Piastri. I think that after maybe a little bit of a frustrating sprint, Oscar is going to come out into qualifying and just perform really, really well. Take pole position. Like I just said, on their day, each McLaren driver is really tough to beat. So I think Oscar's gonna have a little bit of a frustrating sprint, but come back and get Grand Prix pole.
Always a great prediction to put Oscar Piastri on pole. Not to be disrespectful or to count out the McLaren drivers, but I've gone with Max Verstappen on pole. As always, absolute shot in the dark when it comes to predicting a Red Bull performance going into the weekend. But I'm just thinking back to 2023 where Max had that race where he came from 10th and it was like he snapped something inside of him, said, I'm never losing again, and proceeded to dominate the rest of the season. So we know that he's performed well here before. I think he's got it in him. Hopefully that car is moving in the right direction. We know they've got some upgrade planned, not for this weekend, but soon. So I'm going to put Max Verstappen in pole this weekend.
Yeah, that's absolutely not a disrespectful thing to do to the McLaren drivers. It's more, I think, respectful to Max Verstappen to include him in our pole predictions because Max has been on a tear recently and just out to prove that he still is the same driver, even if his car isn't the fastest.
Yeah, the only disrespectful thing is Max Verstappen taking pole position without having any of the quickest sectors in a qualifying lap. Moving on to our podium prediction. Who is taking P3 this weekend?
P3, I've got Max. I think that Red Bull is going to be quick. I just don't know that it's going to be quick enough. And picking Max Verstappen for a podium has never really served me wrong. So
Yeah, I mean, we say that, but I think both of us predicted him like P2 in Bahrain, and then he was fighting Pierre Gasly for sixth place on the last lap. So it is just insanely difficult to predict where that Red Bull is going to be at all times. I've gone with Lando Norris in P3. This whole podium prediction for me is just incredibly difficult. When we started this podcast in 2023, it was easy as could be. You put Max Verstappen in P1, probably throw a Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton on there, and you were good to go. Now I have absolutely no idea who to predict on this podiums. I want to put Lando Norris on the podium because I do believe he's a quick driver. I think the McLaren is the quickest car, but our last memory of him is him crashing in qualifying and then getting DRS trapped by Lewis Hamilton for 3 laps in a row. So, it's one of those things that kind of pulls me back from putting him in second place. So I'm going to be cautious and put him in third.
yeah, I mean that's a great pick. I think Lando is still a quick driver, and there's no reason not to include him on the podium. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Who is taking P2 this weekend at the Miami Grand Prix?
I've gone with Lando Norris, which for all the reasons you just mentioned, is kind of a tough pick. But I do think Lando will be confident going into this weekend because he won here last year. Even though he didn't finish the sprint, that's his last memory of Miami is winning here, getting his first career win. So I think Lando's gonna carry some of that confidence. Go get P2 this weekend.
Wait, who knows? Maybe he's got that memory of a win and it's just stacking more pressure on him and he's gonna make another mistake and have an awful weekend. Who
That's
knows? Who knows?
possible.
In P2, I have gone with Max Verstappen. Even if he takes pole, it's difficult to overtake around Miami, but it has got that massive straight right at the end of the lap. So I feel like if he takes pole, the victory is not guaranteed here. You know, if he stayed in front in Saudi like he had in Japan, victory kind of could have been guaranteed because of how difficult it is to overtake. Miami, you can make overtakes, got two DRS zones, some different spots that you can overtake. And so I think even if he does something magical in qualifying, just don't think the race pace of that Red Bull is there for him to win. So I'm going to put him in P2.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. And, Oscar showed us last time out in Saudi Arabia that if there's anybody who's not going to back down when trying to overtake Max Verstappen, it's Oscar. So, uh, there's that to think about as well.
Yeah, well, speaking of Oscar Piastri, who do you think is going to win the Miami Grand Prix?
I'm going with Oscar Piastri to win the Grand Prix. I think he'll translate a pole into victory here in Miami, kind of stretch his championship lead a little bit more, which would be great to see. So, yeah.
In P1, I have gone with Sergio. I'm just kidding. You remember we used to make that joke, and that was so funny. We wouldn't talk about Sergio Perez all episode, and then we just throw him in P1 as a joke like that. Oh man, hope he comes back next year and we can start making that joke again. I've gone with Oscar Piastri as well. Of course, I have not a pole to win for me, but still expecting him to take the Grand Prix victory this weekend. He's got all the momentum. He's got all the confidence. I think it was huge for him last weekend to go toe to toe with Max Verstappen into turn one, not back down, come out in front and win that race. I think we've seen drivers just be accustomed to diving out of the way when Max Verstappen sends one up the inside. Oscar Piastri did not do that. I think that is massive for his confidence to say, I've raced Max Verstappen and I've beat him. I think that's going to be huge for him for the rest of the season. I think it starts this weekend. I think he's going to win the Miami Grand Prix as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that'd be crazy. If he wins, he will have more career wins than Lando Norris. Just throwing it out there. Just putting it out there. But
Oh man, I cannot imagine the scenes of Formula One social media. That would be absolutely insane. Our one push and prediction, I have gone with that there will be at least three special liveries this weekend. We've already seen some special merch teased from Ferrari. We're recording this on the Monday of the week, so by the time it gets posted, if you've seen something online, I didn't know that when I made this prediction, so it's fair to make. But it just feels like one of those races. Teams show up with a little bit of special paint on their cars. We saw it last year with VCARB. We've seen it with Red Bull before. But three, that's 30% of the grid. That feels like a high enough percentage of me to say that it's a bold prediction. So we'll see what happens.
yeah, I mean, I think that's a great prediction. Ferrari has had some cool liveries here in the past. I'm still hoping for a completely blue Ferrari. I know it'll never happen.
Not
They'll
happening.
never take red off the car, but I'm still hoping for something like that. But yeah, could definitely happen. Love seeing the special liveries. Miami is usually a place that brings them out. Um, my one pushing prediction, I've gone with out of the four chances to score points. So, uh, you know, two drivers in the sprint, two drivers in the Grand Prix. I think Haas is going to score points in three out of those four, which, I feel like I always say this as I'm reading that. Sounds incredibly
That
bold.
is super bold.
It's a lot of faith in Esteban Ocon, but we'll see what happens. So
Well, now that you've said that, you guaranteed an Esteban Ocon double points and Ollie Behrman scoring 0 points this weekend. Probably going to finish like P9 and P11 just to spite you because you made that prediction right there. But I'm fine with you making that bold prediction because I've still got some ground to make up. So hopefully you going absolute wild with that one can help me out some as well. The fans at Baylor Bud, Max finishes in the top five. At Danny B93, Yuki Tsunoda qualifies in the top six. And at Formula Fan 13, Lance Stroll outqualifies Fernando Alonso in both qualifying sessions.
wow, that's bold. That's bold.
Yeah, I feel like all of these are pretty bold, except for maybe the first one. I feel like Max top five. Well, having said that, we have seen him finish six, but it feels likely to me the Yuki qualifying in the top six, that would be his best qualifying in a Red Bull. So that would
Yeah.
be an impressive thing to see. In no way do I think Lance Stroll outqualifies Fernando Alonso twice. I mean, he would have to like get COVID and set out the weekend. I don't know if we're allowed to say that on YouTube anymore, but that's what it is. And so I truly just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, that one seems near impossible, but strangest things have happened in the world of Formula One before.
That is absolutely true. And so there you have it. That's all we've got for the Miami Grand Prix. Our predictions done and dusted. Lovely predictions from you, the fans, as well. Before we get out of here, Brandon, what are your parting podium thoughts?
I'm excited for Miami.
There it
Thank you
is.
guys for putting in your predictions, and it's gonna be a great race. So I'm pumped.
Absolutely. Pumped as well. Always love getting home on a Sunday afternoon and having Formula One to watch live. It is incredible. Thank you for watching or listening to another episode of the Podium Pushers podcast. As always, like, subscribe, follow, leave a comment, do all of the things before you go. We really appreciate you letting us be the people that you let waffle on to you about Formula One. We will see you next week to react to the Miami Grand Prix. We did our predictions today. We'll be reacting next week, and it's another triple header is on its way. So we'll have some more predictions to come your way when we go to one of my favorite tracks. But until then, have a great day and God bless.
See you.